I made the mistake of not going out and getting money, using others people's money, as they say. It's 2 years later, and I'm still talking about getting an SBA loan. I funded everything myself, so I dwindled my own personal accounts in order to start this business. I would do it differently, but I wouldn't take anything back. Getting an SBA loan would have been the smartest thing at that time.
Welcome to The Boost, a podcast for home service contractors. We explore leaders and innovators in home services, their personal journeys, thoughts, and experiences with growth, marketing, and succession. We cover the good, the bad, the ugly, and its ultimate impact. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. Welcome to another episode of The Boost. I'm Zach Wilson, Chief Marketing Officer of Local. Today, we have Cody McLeod, President and founder of Utility Plumbing Services. Cody, welcome. Thanks for being here, bud.
Thanks for having me, Zach. I appreciate it.
It was really fun to hang out with you. We recently met in Dallas through a couple other contacts and had a good time, shared some good stories and some exercise. We got out there for a little morning fun run at the ass crack of dawn, and I got to run around Arlington a little bit.
That's right. You asked me to meet you downstairs at the lobby for a run, and I had no idea it was a 5K. So I was a little surprised at that, but it was all good. I thought it was going to be like maybe a half mile or something, just quick around the building.
Even if we did limit it to just running around the building, it would probably have been a couple miles because that thing is fucking ginormous. We did just run around, what do they call it? AT&T Stadium. Yeah, that was the whole run. You were right. We did just run around the building. What's your normal jam for exercise? Are you like a CrossFit guy, or just like gym weights and whatever, a HIIT guy? Clearly, you're not an aerobic guy.
No, I do like cardio though, and I go to the gym probably 3 to 4 times a week. It's been a little less lately, but I go to Gold's Gym here in Rancho Cucamonga, and I hit the cardio, and then I hit the weights pretty strong.
Gold's still like Gold's of yore, where it's the gym to go to if you're on the bodybuilding circuit. Is that still Gold's like jam and persona?
The Gold's out in Los Angeles, like Venice Beach and all that, for sure, like the old school stuff, but it's getting more commercialized. It's more like a LA Fitness now.
Oh, okay.
You do cardio, you're like looking at everybody in the mall and stuff, and it's pretty cool.
So yeah, man, you have quite a great story about being in a family business, starting your own business. From what Mike says, you're kicking ass and things are jamming. So let's get into it. Where did this world start for Cody and plumbing in the trades?
So I appreciate you asking, Zach. So I'm a second generation plumbing contractor. I was the kid growing up with a plumbing shop in my backyard. So I was always around plumbing, and growing up, I played sports and everything. So my dad wanted me to play sports and go look for different careers and stuff. So growing up, I was one of 5 kids, and my father, my entire life, said, none of my boys will be plumbers. I'm one of 4 boys. My whole life, all I heard was, none of my boys will be plumbers. So I was like, I'm for sure not going to be a plumber. Like, there's no chance, So I went out, I played college football at Chaffey College, and I thought I was going to be a firefighter by 21 years old, and it didn't work out like that. Let's back up a little bit. I hopped in the plumbing truck at like 16 years old, and I really learned plumbing from the ground up. And it wasn't until later on that I realized that this was my passion.
You were basically just working under the wing of your father, and were there any of the 4 other siblings in the business at that point in time?
Definitely. I probably got to perfect the story a little bit, but
for the record, it's my job to ask the right questions and get you to answer them.
So to answer your question, yeah, so I was the oldest of the 4 boys. So I was for sure the one that was like, hey, Dad, I want to make some money in the summers and stuff, or after football practice. I was hopping in the vans. I was going to emergency calls at like 16 years old with my dad, probably sooner, but I started my professional career at 16 years old. And basically, I learned plumbing from the ground up. I got into the industry already knowing the plumbing material, like all the pipe and everything, because when I was a kid, I was building bike jumps. We didn't have enough dirt, so I was putting pipes inside the jumps so that we had enough dirt to build big jumps, you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I started, and just running in the truck with my father.
And so when did any of your siblings come into it?
They definitely helped my father out and do the same thing, like when they were in high school and everything. And 3 out of the 4 boys are actually plumbers. My brother Cole's a partner at the family business, which we'll get into, I'm sure. And then my brother Carson is the senior plumbing technician at the family business, Scott McLeod Plumbing. And then my other brother Kai, he's actually the chief engineer for one of the biggest general contractors in Southern California. So they build like all the freeways and everything. And
Oh, okay, cool. Did I miscount or is there a girl in there or no, just four total?
There is my sister Paige.
Thought you said five. Right. Okay.
Yeah, my sister's older than me. So we're all 2 years apart. And my sister Paige worked for the family business as well in customer service. And she actually works for me now in customer service. So she's helping us out.
Oh, okay, good. And is she the oldest or no?
Yeah, she's the oldest. So it's Paige, Cody, Kai, Cole, Carson.
Your mom probably kept going because she thought she could slip another girl in there and clearly failed miserably. After number five, she threw in the towel. She's like, all right, I'm done. As a father of three, I applaud your parents, but geez Louise, man, that's something. That's a lot of kids.
It was definitely a fun childhood for sure.
My family was a little weird, had all sorts of half and step siblings. The full family tree is six, but I'm the only one from my set of parents, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So everybody else is half and step. Four halves and one step that I'm pretty close with. So yeah, it's weird. But point being is that yeah, just like having all those kids around when you're a kid, it's chaos and just a blast. So anyways, your journey through Scott McLeod was what? You started as a little apprentice boy schlepping probably just tools from the truck and doing some pretty basic things to overall vice president, or were you vice president of a department?
So basically, I say vice president like I walked into some big organization and it just wasn't like that, but we turned it into something very special. When I was, I think, 22 years old, I went to lineman school and I came back and I sat my dad down and said, hey, I want to work towards taking over your business. At that point, it was me, my father, and one other guy, and my cousin Katie worked remote. So it was a true family business. So basically, I asked my dad that. We ended up getting rid of that one guy we had. So it started with me, my dad in his backyard with my cousin working from home. We built the company up to 30 employees, around 30 company vehicles, and we bought a two-story building on Foothill Boulevard in Rancho Cucamonga, which is like the main street. And it's just the proudest thing I've ever done, man. It was a fun run.
How did that go working up towards obviously working towards what the intent was being the owner and your father handing you, not handing you, but you being the successor of the family business and going into it with those plans to then you ultimately leaving and starting your own thing. And what was the journey like? What were the conversations through those years building from 3 to 30? That's amazing. And then obviously stepping away from it all. More specifically, the question is you went in one day and you're like, Dad, I want to take this over one day. And his response was what?
It wasn't a great response, to be honest.
What was it? You're 22 years old and you've got these dreams and aspirations. He tell you you're dreaming? Does he tell you to, go fly a kite? What does he say?
Well, I think he was always trying to push me to do bigger and greater things. I think my dad, because of how he got into the trades and everything, he had to. His father died when he was 5 years old, and plumbing's not something that you like choose. Maybe nowadays it is because it's becoming a cool thing to get into the trades, but it kind of chooses you. So the conversation I had with my dad in the front yard at his house where we had our shop was, I think he was pushing me towards going and doing other things. I wish I could remember the exact conversation, but it was basically, are you sure you want to do this? I had already been, I mean, we could go through my whole career, but I failed EMT school twice trying to be a firefighter. I went to try to be a police officer. I worked for a termite company. I went to welding school to be a pipeline guy. I went to lineman school to be a power lineman. All I wanted was success, and it was all in the construction industry. So when my dad was like, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, hell yeah, I've been working with my hands for years and I'm ready to go.
Right. And to be fair, the father side of this is we all want the best for our kids and we all want to see our kids succeed. However, in your situation, your track record wasn't good. Let's be honest. You're a 20 something year old kid. You've had whatever you just listed, like six or seven things that you went
Right.
into and you failed. Failure is a strong word, but it's also complicated, right? Like, did you fail because you were an idiot? Did you fail because you weren't interested? Did you fail because there was some broad that distracted you? It could be a million things. I think that's the interesting part of the journey is the why and how. And in that case, your dad, was like, Cody, I have this business and it supported our entire family. And here you are, you think you can just take this over and do this. He's just challenging you at the times. And with that, you took that as a challenge and decided to kind of level up and dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Sorry, there's a lot loaded questions here.
I'm just sort of recapping it, not necessarily a question, but yeah, I'm looking at that conversation in that point in time more from a father slash business owner. And if, one of
Yeah,
my kids stepped up and kind of did that, I'd be like, probably the same response. Like, are you sure? Can you do this? And, your dad's probably like, well, I don't want to quote unquote hand this over to you carte blanche and then, see you fuck it up.
absolutely.
That was a real conversation. And what you did with that moment was what?
Yeah, so we say failure now. You bring up a really good point. I'd say I did fail at a couple of them, but I actually just posted on my Instagram this morning, fall forward. I think I lost interest in those careers rather than it wasn't like I was like getting fired from jobs or anything. I want to be clear there. And I was always a great employee, a great worker, but I was just trying to find myself. From 18 to 22, you're supposed to be in college and learning more to find yourself. I was in college just to play college football. I went to about six different colleges for from trades and everything else, but I was just trying to find myself in that time. You do bring up a great point. Maybe that's what my father was thinking at the time. Hey, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you're cut out for it type of deal?
I went to a formal university and I was not much different than you. It was just the college setting. And it was one day I wanted to do this, the next day I wanted to do that, and the next day I wanted to do that. And then 10 years later, I'm doing something totally different. And I think that part of the journey as a kid, and I remember it so vividly for myself too. Like I went to school with a lot of very bright people, and there weren't a ton, but there was a small handful of people that were just like, I wanted to do X. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a banker. I wasn't one of those people. And you're the same. And that's part of the journey. Like I said, I think failure is probably too strong of a word. It's what ultimately gets us headed in the right direction is those little moments of adversity slash failures. So jumping in back into that conversation, what did the next couple of years look like? You're there, you're like, oh, I want to buy this business from you and, to prove my worth and my value, I'm going to help you build it. It sounds like you did. What did those next couple steps look like? Did you come back and have this conversation and say like, look, we're at 10, we're at 15, we're at 20, we're making substantial strides. Let's have this conversation again about succession and buying the business.
I had big dreams, but I didn't know what that looked like. And my father, for sure, never imagined that we could have done what we did. I think the most employees my father had, which he ran a successful business, love my dad. I don't think he ever had more than 5 to 6 employees at a time. He liked to keep it small and so he can control it and stuff. So as we grew, we were just kind of doing it on the fly. Year after year, we were growing. We would get 2 to 4 vehicles per year, every year, I think like 8 to 10 years straight. And it was just because we were growing and we kept putting pieces in place within the organization. We got up to like 6 office staff. We had like 25 field employees and stuff. Everything just made sense for us. And as far as the business succession, we were trying to do that. I came in the early 10s, like 2012 or something. So by 2016, that's where we brought my brother in as a partner. My father gifted my brother and I the shares of the company in 2006.
By that time, what was your size, personnel wise or revenue wise, or however you want to break it down?
Yeah, I don't even know what the revenue was back in 2010 or 12. It was probably around 500,000 or so. 2016, I think we were probably in the 3 million area. So that's when we brought my brother in as a partner. We were like, oh man, this thing's really taken off. So I was 24.5%. My brother Cole was 24.5%. My father was 51% of the company at that time. I think at that time was probably like the 18 employee mark. And then as we continued to grow all the way up until COVID was our biggest year ever. And I think we did like 5.5 million that year. It just took off from there. So it's kind of a little bit unorthodox with my father gifting us the shares. But again, we didn't even know what it looked like in 2012. It was like, oh, I might try this out and we'll see how it works kind of deal. But I knew how serious I was about it, but I just didn't think my father knew or saw the vision of where it could go.
It's all relative, right? If you're only $500,000 in top line revenue, whatever, you're operating at a 20% profit margin. Let's just make some assumptions here. Your profits there are going to be 100 grand, right? So, I mean, it's not nothing, but 25% and your trading multiple is, let's just say for easy math, is 5. So you've got a $500,000 EBITDA, right? You're 25% of that is it's 125 grand. And that's not nothing. That's an extraordinarily generous gift. I would love it if my father gave me anything other than nothing, but I certainly never got 125 grand. I can tell you that much. I'm just going off the cuff math.
Make it clear it was not cash.
Yeah, no, but it's equity, right? It has a cash value. Was this in writing?
Yeah, it wasn't the first 4 or 5 years that I was in the business. I was just grinding. I didn't even know what this meant at that time.
Right. I have a lot of these conversations, and you said this wasn't normal or whatever. Let me just tell you that there is no normal. There is nothing that is normal in terms of family businesses and how people get equity and how they formalize them. Mike is a great example. Mike took over 2 years to a negotiated deal with his dad. That's hilarious. It was a similar thing. It wasn't worth very much, right? You're tripping over pennies at that point in time. But, it's that sort of blood, sweat, and tears that it really what you're trying to put a valuation on. Jumping forward to 2016, you're 3.5 million, 3 million. You've basically 6x the company in 4 years, and you, your brother, and your dad. And then we jump to, what'd you say, what year was COVID officially? 2020, your biggest year, 5.5 million?
2020, then 2021 was the biggest year, and then I exited in 2022. So I
Okay.
believe.
So by this point, 2022, presumably, are you guys about the same, 5 million plus or minus?
Yeah, so our biggest year ever was 5.5 million. And then we were pacing when I left in
22.
2020, we were at the 5 million mark. I believe the 2021 was the 5.5, and then we were pacing 6, or that was my goal, my plan. But I exited the company in March of 2022.
Yeah, call it what it is. That's 10x. And I mean, it's a considerable amount of time, and you've got some big events there, COVID, but still, that's not kids' play, especially from where your father was. Who knows? I mean, never increased it a penny above 500,000. So that's awesome. Kudos to you, your brother, and your dad for doing that. It's a major accomplishment.
Absolutely appreciate it.
So 2022, it was time for you to, let's just say, flee the nest. Little young Cody gets his wings and flees the nest. What does that look like? Just talk about that year in general.
Gotcha. So I was going through, even through COVID in 2021, I was going through a lot outside of work. We've had a couple conversations about that.
We all were, Cody. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest. Just to be clear, during COVID, I was still working from home. I was in the same room. This is how messed up this is, because we were in a small place and we had 3 kids. I was in the same room for almost 20 hours a day because it was like we didn't have an office. That was our bedroom. I turned the bedroom into the office. Just think about that. Like, you sleep for 8 to 10 hours, you work for 8 to 10 hours. So 16 to 20 hours, I'm looking at the same 4 walls. It was hard for everybody in different ways. And you had your adversity and other people had theirs. So yeah, but anyway, I just wanted to be empathetic to that. You weren't alone. A lot of other people going through their own trials and tribulations.
I felt embarrassed about it for a long time. And I think that's why I still maybe, say it the way I do right now. But I appreciate you relating to that. It was the craziest thing that's ever happened to any of us. I actually have a similar story to that. I had just bought a home in Rancho here, and I was with my ex-fiance. We were remodeling the whole house. So everything was under construction. Me and her were up in the master bedroom. That was the only room in the house. And I had a staircase coming up to the back. And we were literally like going stir crazy. That's where everything started, was Home Alone and stuff, and just be there all day. And she would come home. We just had nowhere to go, and we ended up splitting up 2 months before the wedding. That was the start of it all for sure.
Yeah, people went through a lot of crazy shit. So how did the exit from a administrative and paper and financial standpoint, how did that look? How did that work? You all got together and you said you're going to leave, and I can't even do math anymore.
24.5%.
24.5. Thank you.
Of one of the corporations. And then the building, we had another corporation set up, McLeod Enterprises, but that's another story. But to answer your question, let's see. First of all, I want to put it out there that I never wanted to leave the family business. I never planned to. And it was kind of the biggest shock of my entire life. And again, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I was forced out of my family business. My father and brother got together, and I was having trouble showing up to work. I was going through everything outside of work. Couldn't really see it at the time, struggling with substance abuse and everything else. I really just couldn't see it. Started with, I don't know how personal we should get here, but my brother took my truck out of the driveway. My father and brother got together and voted me out of the operations of Scott McLeod Plumbing. So again, one of the biggest embarrassing things of my life. And again, I couldn't see it for a long time. I was totally in the wrong. But again, the best thing that ever happened to me was them giving me tough love. I think it was a little too tough. But now I have my company here and stuff and everything, and I'm just elated. I'm liberated, and I get to come to work every day. I'm 100% owner of my business, and I know what the value of the dollar means now. You know what I mean?
Congratulations to climbing out of the depths of despair and
Thank
going
you.
through a really, really challenging time and rising to the occasion. The situations, those are defining moments in people's lives, and you either get crushed and defeated or you use it as an opportunity to reinvent, right? And that's what you did.
I got chills when you say that right now because the reinvent is one of my biggest adjectives I used.
Did not know that. I did not try and steal your thunder on that one. What was the exit there? I mean, you have this moment and you have 24.5%. How did they cash to the table? Was it malicious? Was it somehow steal it all back? How did they quote unquote buy you out or, kick you out, whatever you want? But I mean, you still have 24.5% of top line revenue plus, the valuation. That's some serious money. It's more than $100,000.
Just like Mike, it took us a year and a half to 2 years to just complete the entire thing, but we got a business valuation. And of course, in my position, they had all the leverage and it was absolutely undervalued.
Even with a third party valuation?
Yeah, we did a third party evaluation. I kind of didn't want to create this rift. I wasn't going after them. If it was partners that I weren't family members, my biggest thing was keeping our family intact and keeping the relationship after this whole horrible thing that's going on. So I was just kind of letting them come up with what they wanted. I probably got a third of what I was actually owed. I own the building with my father and I didn't get a dime from that. They tried to negotiate that and everything. And I know my capabilities and I know that I'm going to go out and bust my ass and build something great. We still have a rough relationship and stuff, but I didn't want that to ruin my relationship with my dad and my brother.
I can definitely understand that. That sounds almost impossible, right? No one wins. And even in a true business agreement, everybody says the best agreements are the ones where nobody's happy, right? Everybody's giving a little bit. So it
Yeah.
sounds like in this case, at least your version of the story, that you were the only one that wasn't happy. So I don't know if that was a good business deal or not. Nonetheless, maybe you guys can still break bread over Christmas dinner and whatnot. So there's maybe something to that.
We're almost there.
You're almost there. Has there not been a Christmas dinner since 2021?
There was this year. I actually hosted the McLeod Christmas at my house. My dad didn't show up, but my brother did.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's crazy. We all have our demons. So, anyways, it takes you a year and a half to do this. Did you bring in outside counsel, a lawyer to represent you? Did you try and have a meeting once a month to try and negotiate over the next thing? Or what was the process for, 18 months? It's a long time.
Yeah, so in March of 2022, I kind of knew something was coming. We had pretty much made the decision. I had already left the company. I was out of the operations, not voted out at that time. I was always the business savvy one, trying to make the right business decisions. And when I realized that I was leaving the family business, I was talking to our financial advisor and stuff, and he was saying, hey, you don't want to get lawyers in this. It's going to get expensive. Why don't you do a business mediator? Me being the family man and all this and stuff, I went to my dad and brother. Why don't we do just like a mediator and stuff? And they thought I was trying to like manipulate him or something when I was just trying to facilitate it. And they invited me to a meeting. They said, hey, be at this location at this time. I was like, oh, cool, no problem. Let's go do it. We're going to talk about it and stuff. And I get to this office and it's an attorney's office.
Oh,
And
good.
they invited me, the guy, to an office. My dad's like, love him to death. My dad's in like cargo shorts and freaking camouflage, and I'm in a suit and tie, and they're sitting across from me, and they surprise me by showing up with an attorney. So it's my dad, my brother sitting across from me with an attorney at the end of the desk. And this is one of my favorite stories about this whole thing. And I don't want to be disrespectful about it, but I went in, I was basically talking to the attorney. I don't want to get too deep into this, but everything that they told the attorney was like they're incorrect or wasn't even part of like the actual how the corporations were set up. We had 3 corporations. So I started explaining to the attorney how the corporations were set up because I'm the one that set everything up. And the attorney was like wide-eyed and like, oh my gosh. I kind of embarrassed everyone in the room. I shook hands with everybody respectfully. I was like, I can't believe you guys are doing this. And then at that time, they got a new attorney because of how embarrassed they were in that meeting. They went out and got another attorney, and then I had to get an attorney. And then that whole process took like a year and a half to do.
And was expensive.
It was very expensive. I don't know. I probably said too much there, and I'm pretty passionate about it and stuff, but it was just like a slap in the face, is what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially if they're, throwing you into a situation blind. I mean, I would agree that's pretty disrespectful. Just be honest about what the meeting is and what the intentions are. They were clearly trying to get over on you in some way, get the upper hand. Good for you. I think that's a testament to your business savvy and really making sure that you understand the business behind the business, right? And that situation and moving forward gave you a little bit of an upper hand and most likely prevented them from getting over on you even more so. It's really important to understand some of that stuff and not just put all of your faith in someone else and trust them, which obviously they had done. So in this 18 months, at what point did you start Utility Plumbing Services?
That was in March of 2022. In April of 2022, the next month, I opened up my corporation.
Is it safe to assume, or maybe not presumptuous, that as of March, after your meeting where they voted you out, basically, I'm guessing they stopped cutting you paychecks? Is that safe
Oh
to
yeah,
assume? Yeah.
absolutely. The paycheck stopped, so I was still an owner of the company.
I'm just going to say that out loud. You're an owner of the company one day, and ownership was not transferred and you were getting $0 and zero distributions. That's fucked up.
It was super fucked up. And I'm saying some pretty serious stuff on here and stuff. I just feel like they went the wrong way about it. But again, it was I call it a slap in the face or whatever, but I needed that at the time. I want them to know it was fucked up, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I really did need it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's a very important part of the story, financial aspect of it. I mean, that like, realistically, and again, I'm just going to say this out loud, you had 18 months as part of this transition, exiting this deal where you got $0. And I'm guessing by what I hear from you, you were not compensated on the backside for those 18 months for your salary or any distributions.
Correct. So it was like they were honestly at the time, I think without them even realizing they were trying to bury me. No W-2 paycheck, no distributions for a year and a half. Everything that I had earned my entire career trying to start this new business, I just dwindled down to nothing. So it's a big part of my story about starting from nothing. New phone number, new email, new everything. I started with nothing.
New underwear?
New underwear, but Lululemon for sure.
Never had Lululemon underwear. It sounds nice. Is it good? Is it
Game
good?
changer.
Game changer. We'll talk about this for a minute. Just a few months ago, I switched to the non-cotton boxer briefs to like more silky, elasticy material, which is probably similar to what Lululemon are. Is that,
Yeah.
if I'm guessing? Dude,
Oh yeah.
that shit's nice. That was game changing. That was life changing. Moving away from cotton. Holy mackerel.
I did the same thing. Or just to relate here, one of my mentors, Anthony Morel, I was like, man, he posted something about Lululemon underwear. He's a real estate broker in town here. And what did he say? How do you like the Lulu underwear? He goes, change your standards. He's like, pick up your standards in life. And I went and bought all like 30 pairs of Lululemon underwear.
I'm with you. There's another big standard I have, this is great. We're going to just talk about this for a minute because there's another standard in addition to underwear, which, let's be honest, you're wearing underwear, 16 hours a day to 24 hours a day, depending on who you are and how you sleep, right? That's a big part of your comfort. Why skimp on that? Makes no sense. And then my other one, big one, the bed, the mattress. Ever do the math on this? You spend, let's say conservatively, 8 hours, 7 days a week, 56 hours a week in one place. Don't skimp on your sheets. Don't skimp on your mattress. You spend a huge portion of your life, 30% of your life in that one place.
I completely agree. I actually tell our customers this about their plumbing systems. You use
I
the
want to.
toilet
I
every
want.
day, you use your faucet every day, you use your shower every day. Why not make the improvements to your home? So
Don't skimp on the toilet. People might not understand the pleasure you get from a nice toilet, but man, I'm with you 100%. Maybe not as high on the list as the underwear in bed, but it's
sure.
definitely top 10. In my house, we have a variety of toilets. I'm definitely selective about which toilets I choose because of how they're appointed and how the seat is, et cetera, et cetera. We're getting back to meat and potatoes. So April 2022, you sign the papers, start utility plumbing services with $0.
Just from my savings and stuff and what I had put away. But basically, yeah. And I made the mistake of not going out and getting money, using others people's money, as they say.
A loan, SBA loan or something, what would you have done differently?
Off the bat, so I went to the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program in
Hmm.
2017, I
Yeah.
believe. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar, but
Yep.
incredible
I am.
program. And they basically, teach you about small business financing and stuff, SBA loans
Yeah.
and stuff. So when I first started it, it's 2 years later, and I'm still talking about getting an SBA loan. I funded everything myself. So I dwindled my own personal accounts in order to start this business. I would do it differently, but I wouldn't take anything back. Getting an SBA loan would have been the smartest thing at that time to go get more capital because I'm paying off loans myself, but they're personal loans to the business. So that was April 2022. And then I spent the next 6 months basically getting my contractor's license in the state of California, just got everything set up for the business. And I was doing odd end jobs for friends and family for those 6 months and stuff, just because I am a plumber myself. In December of 2022, my company, Utility Plumbing Services, ran our first service call and we just started taking off from there. And the outpouring, I'll just say this real quick, the love and respect we got from the community right off the bat. I mean, we were already busy. I had 4 employees in January of 2023 and we were already rolling, man. It was really cool.
So April to December, you're basically begging people for work, friends and family, right?
I wouldn't say that, but I was getting the vehicles ready. I think I got the vehicles in like November. So I got my first 2 vehicles in November and then I wrapped them. That's when people started saying, oh, shoot, he's dead serious about this. But
Okay. It was all about the wrapping. Got it. That created a big lift.
yeah, for wrapping the vehicles. And then in January, or actually February 23 was when I got my shop. Oh, shoot. Like he's trying to go. I feel like it was from the outside looking in, the community and our customers. Oh, he's dead serious about this. I feel like I put out so much money for unnecessary things when I first started my business, like from services to, I went and got Service Titan right away and all that, went and got the shop right away. I wanted to show that, I knew what I was doing and which I did. I was just throwing money away, throwing labor dollars away, just trying to show that we were a big organization right off the bat. And it ended up working in our benefit.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, that was my thing at SMP.
Every SOP would just say, fuck it, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, we got
It's
this.
easy. SOP for the techs all the way up to the master plumbers was just the same thing. Fuck it.
Oh, yeah.
Fake it till you make it.
Get her done.
I love it. I love it. This is not typical fodder for these conversations, but I was curious who came up with the mark, the U. It's good. It's solid. It's tight.
Thank you. And I'm proud to say my creative director made it all come to life, of course, but the black and white and the actual U itself, I came up with it myself.
It's
And
good. It's
I have
strong.
the very first video on our social medias, if you scroll down and go to the bottom, which I could shoot it over to you, was a drawing that I did. I have it somewhere in my office here, but basically I woke up, I was just thinking, my creative director came up with like 5 different logos and 5 different brands, all different colors. I really wanted like a powder blue or something. And I'm just like, man, everyone's powder blue in plumbing, it's such a common thing. My family business was blue, like a royal blue and stuff. So after like 5 different designs, they all made me cringe. And I got up in the middle of the night at 11:30 at night, and I was just like, I want something bold and professional. I literally got out of bed. I went to my kitchen, pulled out my drawer, and I drew a rectangle with a U with a period on it. And I was just like, That's it. And I sent it like at midnight. I sent it to my creative director and he absolutely hated it. He's like, that's never going to work. And I was like, dude, trust me. I've been in this trade my entire life. I go, I have a feeling about this. I love it. It's going to work. And then paired that with the black and white and the whole modern theme.
No knock on the trend these days of caricatures and furry animals. Distinctly different. There's not a lot of that color scheme too. Everybody's really going bright, vibrant, which complements the caricatures, the fuzzy furry mascots. Do you know Mother Flushers?
Yeah, I do. Well, I no, I don't know them personally. I've heard of them.
Not as modern, but I think they're like black and white too. My California geography is not the best, but I think they're like Sacramento or something up north from you. Is that Sacramento, Modesto? Is that same area? I don't know where Modesto is.
Modesto is pretty much Central California, then Sacramento would be considered Northern California.
I don't know. Is one of those. I met him at Epic. What's a good one here that is really good branding? Jolly Plumbing in Southern Ohio.
Never heard of them.
They have some good branding and some good taglines, and it's whimsical but sharp, witty. I don't use this term, but lightning round. I've never said that before. It's not really a lightning round, just a couple more questions. So, looking back at your first business engagement, first operating agreement, if you will, with your family, would you have done anything different knowing what you know now in terms of the agreement itself? You were really young, right? This is not like a knock on anyone or anything like that. It's just what have you learned? And if you could do that all over again, and to everybody else out there who's listening, because it's the whole point of this, if you're a 22-year-old something getting into an agreement with your dad and your brother, what would you suggest? What did you do wrong in that time that you would do differently today that would have, quote unquote, prevented you from losses or made it a more equitable exit?
Again, I think I had a unique situation because it was with the family business. But if I can make any recommendations to anybody getting into business, get those operating agreements in place. And I wouldn't change a thing on the actual operating agreements between my dad and my brother. We got the right professionals at that time in 2016 to get our operating agreements down and stuff, just get the right people in place there.
That said, do you attribute the inequitable exit to just a compromise and trying to, preserve the relationship? To me, an outsider looking in, the operating agreement, if you will, I've never seen it or anything, but wasn't tight enough or specific enough to create a transition for a clean, equitable exit. By all accounts happened, right? Like, yes, it was a family business. Sure, fine. There's relationships, fine, whatever. Arguably speaking, if that agreement, and obviously I'm being a bit of a critic here, so I apologize, but I'm trying to get a better answer out of you, to be honest. If that agreement was better and going through all meetings with the lawyers and whatnot, there had to have been something that you could have defined better or terms you could have been more specific about to create a smoother transition or a smoother exit where you didn't feel like you got the short end of the stick, because by all accounts, that's what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It definitely could have, I don't know. I don't know because at the time, you got to put into account these heartstrings that were being pulled at the same time. My dad's not a businessman. He had a successful business for over 30 years. Okay. But as far as his feelings about the company and him having to pay me to leave the business, I just didn't want to cross any boundaries at the time. My dad's old school, man. They gave me an offer, right? Immediately. I knew that it was a terrible offer in my, right? And it was their first offer. I just go, okay, that one. They were like, what? They lowballed me. And I go, that one. Can we be done with this now?
Right.
Coming from my perspective, that's all I wanted. Can I have my dad and my brother back? In my opinion, it didn't do anything personally to them. This was all about business and me just not being able to show up for work. Like I was sorry about it, I took the very first offer they gave me and I got out and started my own business.
Let's just paint the picture differently. And obviously that was unique. And this is why doing business with family is so challenging, is because you're pulling on those heartstrings. It's like buying a house, right? It becomes very emotional. So let's just paint the picture a little bit differently. And let's just say those two were just business accomplices and business partners, and they did the same thing. How would you have combated that then? I mean, you could just say, yeah, I don't want to deal with it and exit. There had to have been a way to, or some triggers to prevent that lowball deal from actually being, the only offer.
I got a great answer for that.
That's what I
And
was looking for.
okay, it is let your attorney do his job.
Did you not let your attorney do his job because family was involved? You just superseded him and just said, I'm done with this. I don't even care anymore.
No, it wasn't that I was like, oh, I'm done with this. It wasn't like that. He was trying to use the timing. He was a professional. He was super good at what he did. And he's like, this is the time where we need to sue them. He's like, this is the time where we need to use this as leverage. They just sent me over this. We need to sue them right now because they're doing this, because they're doing that. And I go, stop. I don't want to be tied to suing my dad and brother. And I kept trying to do that. And then he was like, this is the time when he's like, let me do my job. Let me do my job. And I was just pulling the reins back and stuff. I would have done things similarly, but I would have just let my attorney do his job because the attorneys are the ones that are battling. You know what I mean?
Right. That's the best thing is they take you out of it and then it doesn't become emotional. You get that scenario that we talked about, which is everybody's pissed off and nobody's happy, right?
Me and my brother, we were communicating at the time, barely. He was trying to call me. I think he was trying to pull my heartstrings too with these lowball offers. We're talking on the phone, like, hey, let's get this thing done. And in reality, it should have just been the attorneys working together because the attorney on the other side, he knew it was bullshit. Guaranteed, everyone in the situation knew it was bullshit. And everything was in my ballpark of what is Cody going to do? How hard is he going to push to get what he's owed?
The thing about attorneys is, which people forget, and we can use the OJ example here, is that their job is they're under attorney client privilege and a duty to represent the interests of their client, right? And in that case, it's like, yeah, I'm not guilty, right? Everybody knew he's guilty. And in this case, it's like, it didn't matter if he knew that you were in the right. That's not his job. His job is to represent the interests of your dad and your brother, which is to get them the best deal and as most money possible. Your lawyer's job is to represent you and get as much money as humanly possible. Maybe he did know that, but that wasn't his job. His job was to get your dad and your brother as much money as possible and give them the best deal as possible. Last question should be an easy one. So, anyone out there starting a new business with very little capital, as in your case, starting utility plumbing service, what would you recommend that they do to fund their new ventures? Staffing, trucks, equipment, etc.
Want to get the ball rolling, but my recommendation is to secure the funding. Secure the funding before you start making the big purchases. I'm 2 years into my business and I still have not secured business loan for what I'm doing. I've gone out and gotten different things and stuff, but definitely secure the funding.
By secure the funding, you're suggesting any sort of external funding, bank financing, SBA financing.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I would go after the SBA loans. Goldman Sachs has a lot of different options. The Small Business Administration has people that can help you. I have a small business administration guy that I work with, and getting all of the paperwork into him in a timely manner, it's been my Achilles heel. And every time I do it, I get to a certain point, I just kind of fall off because I'm so busy with the business now. Now I'm trying to get my business to cash flow without going out and getting these loans and stuff. So now I can't do the things that I want to do, like bring in some full-time positions. So I can't afford the labor now. I can't afford these big marketing campaigns and stuff yet. I will be there very soon. I'm hoping and praying we can get through this time and build and build and build until we can actually start affording the things that our business needs to thrive, But we're right there. We're right there, Zach.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Great talking with you. Great hearing the story, the family business attempt to succeed. We look forward to seeing great things from Utility Plumbing Service and the rest of your team. What's your preferred social? Is it the Cody McLeod _88 Utility Plumbing Services, Instagram or Facebook? Where's the best way to interact with Cody and Utility?
So we got some pretty good content on social media. The business is at Utility Plumbing Services. Most of our stuff's on Instagram, but we're getting into TikTok and Facebook and stuff. And then my personal is Cody McLeod on Facebook, and then Cody McLeod _88 on.
Ah, brutal. Two different handles.
I'm probably going to change it, but it is what it is. I wasn't trying to be famous here, Zach. I was trying to be a good plumber.
Honestly, it just drives me crazy when you can't get the same thing. On the local side, the brand side, we have local HQ everywhere except for Facebook, and it drives me mad.
Really?
Even though it doesn't mean anything. Something in the Philippines has like local HQ on Facebook, and it hasn't been used in like 15 years. And it's like, God damn it, can't like you just abandon this so I can have it? And yeah, so we're a local HQ dot like MKTG or something, just annoyingly dumb. It doesn't matter. All right, man. Well, thank you again for everybody else out there. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Boost and listening to Cody's story. It was great to have him. Thanks again. And everybody go get him.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Zach, for having me.